Welcome to the Pello Perspective podcast, episode 5. My name is Michael Dowling, and today we're here with Chris Pennisi.
Hello, welcome back.
Excellent, Chris. We've had a fantastic spring selling season. Obviously, the market's thriving around the area. It's definitely a sort of up and down market from one week to the next. Very interesting times out there at the moment. How have you found things over spring?
Yeah, definitely. I think some weeks have felt like it's been a little bit slow, but definitely over the last 2 weeks has been incredibly buoyant. A lot of people out there wanting to secure a home. And I think that feeling of the end of the year is almost upon us. I think that's definitely driving some decisions at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like it. I think one key thing we spoke about as a sales team this week was the difference between the first 2 weeks in October to the last 2 weeks of October and what's just basically happened. We've ended up selling 22 properties over the last 4 weeks, but over the Pello group, we've sold just shy of 45, which is a phenomenal achievement considering the first 2 weeks was school holidays. Everyone was away. Getting people through open homes was quite difficult. It's sort of a typical October school holiday period. So a lot's been compressed down to that last 2 weeks, which is really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely kept us busy the last 2 weeks, I'd say.
So the last 2 weeks has been the most interesting of the month of October. So we've sold 10 properties in 7 days, which is quite a big achievement. But obviously, let's just delve into one of those sales in particular and maybe a few more later on. But 16 Richard Johnson Crescent in Ryde, Chris, you sold that at auction last weekend. How did that go?
Actually, after auction, but
yep.
Probably a bit of a surprise for some people listening, but had a lot of people through that property during the course of the campaign. We're finding, and you've probably seen the same, where it really comes down to 2 or 3 main buyers. And we had quite a few people, I think 5 in particular, register, and it sort of slowed down to 2 buyers and ground to a bit of a halt at 2,910,000. And it just felt like that buyer had been there for 5 weeks, and rather than rushing into the sale, we did make a decision to kind of stand fairly strong with that one and ended up passing it in. There's a bit of a negotiation afterwards where they came up a little bit, but again, with the end of the year upon those buyers that already sold their property, they were really looking to get in somewhere before Christmas and really wanted to have that settlement brought forward. We were able to negotiate a huge price afterwards, which was $3 million exactly. But I felt like that wasn't going to happen at the auction as it stopped. So there's a little bit of a risk on ours and the owner's part, but we did feel like that was the right buyer for the property.
Well, I think overall, like the sliding door moment in a property sale is a bit of give and take on both buyer and seller's part. And I think that's a perfect example of that. Like I think a lot of agents and owners can sort of stay firm for too long. And I think we did the right thing, like obviously negotiating that through after auction and getting the buyer up from 2.910 all the way up to 2.988. And they were sort of at 2.988 for 4 or 5 hours. And for those that aren't aware, and you didn't mention earlier, but the deal was actually done at 10:30 at night on that Saturday night. So still under auction conditions and not allowing that sliding door moment to pass. I think, obviously as the owner's agent, you sort of did a great job to get the buyer sort of up to that $3 million. And it is only an extra $12,000, but that sliding door moment happening on a Saturday, I think the buyer made a great decision to do that because we've seen time and time again that either owners will change their mind and maybe keep the property for another 6 months or potentially another buyer will come in on Monday and swoop away and get the property bought at $3 million and they've done all the hard work on the Saturday. So it felt like it was all meant to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like everyone would have probably changed their mind had that been left for another day. So sometimes our role is really just to confirm the decisions that both parties are making and remind them both that the reason you're both standing here is because A, you want to sell, you want to buy. Let's try and meet somewhere in the middle where we get a result where everyone can live with it. And then we've got one family obviously moving on, another family moving in, and everyone's happy at the end of the day. So, although there was a bit of, I guess late nights and bit of tension and all those sorts of things, everyone's happy and thankful now. So it's just
it's like we tell a lot of buyers, like negotiate hard, but don't negotiate too hard that you lose the family home. And I think yeah, it was great to help those clients, and obviously they've been looking for some time. But like you mentioned, the sort of urgency is starting to increase prior to Christmas now. So we're going to see a lot of buyers sort of up the ante, just sort of trying to find that perfect family home to either settle before Christmas or early in the new year before kids start school and things like that. So are you seeing a bit of that traction out there in the community at the moment?
For sure. Well, the sale that we just mentioned is prime example. Both have got kids in local schools and looking to get a bit closer before the new year starts. But a lot of the discussions we're having, I mean, we sold a property in West Ryde the other day where families upsizing from a villa, and they've negotiated in such a way that they can move in there before the school term starts, just so the kids are all settled. And I think for families that's really important, just having that understanding that when you get to Christmas, you've got the property locked away that you're moving into, even if it is in January. And, obviously stability for families is really important as well.
And it also leads to a good Christmas discussion around the dinner table with family, looking
100%.
forward to that move and obviously knowing that you've already secured something and not having the stress of future open homes.
Last thing you want to hear is, why didn't you push a bit harder and just buy a house? I can't believe you're still here, and all those sorts of discussions that go along with it. So I think that's, again, all of those things are probably fueling buyer decisions at the moment, I'd say. Yeah,
definitely. And I suppose leading on top of that, we are seeing sort of a lot of sellers now make decisions either sort of to go on the market this side of the year or next year. Some people are delaying their decisions now and sort of realising that there is only sort of 2 to 3 weeks left to put properties on the market in order to have an auction far enough away from Christmas Day that it's not going to affect people's decision. We do find closer to Christmas Day, it's not the greatest time for an auction. Usually early December is, but definitely not late December. We are finding that a lot of sellers now are sort of taking their time and maybe considering mid to end of January listing their property. Are you seeing that around the area?
Definitely. And I think the other thing that I'd add is there's clients that are selecting the agent they want to work with now, choosing a date in the future, whether it's January, February, anything like that. And then if the property's presented well enough, they're allowing us as agents to bring people through a little bit earlier. So certain people that have missed out on a property, haven't found the right one, bid at a few auctions, made offers. We sold a property at Phillip Road, 11A Phillip Road at Putney, to a client that they were selling their home, so they couldn't buy previously. We'd booked that in for an auction in February, and these guys had just sold their house in Strathfield and really sort of upped that urgency, and they were just having a look at properties with me and just saying everything that you're showing us is good, but it's not great. We're not excited. And after sort of discovering where they could go to on price and locations that they were looking at, we matched them with the property, and it took probably a week and a half of, I think, 3 or 4 inspections, showing family through and so on. But that property sold for $3,535,000, completely off market before we launched it. So
it was a great right place, right time scenario. 35 Claremont that we sold in Ryde, 35 Claremont Avenue, that was very similar to that. So that was an owner that they found the perfect retirement village that they're going to sort of April next year. So they were looking to go on the market sort of mid-January. They were going to plan to have their auction mid-February, and then settlement would all line up perfectly for the retirement village build that's going to be completed. So we were sort of positioning it all for that, but knowing already that we were working with them to get the place decluttered and helping them with that decluttering process and presentation and so on over the next 2 months leading into Christmas, I had a buyer that missed out on another property a couple of weeks ago that was particularly motivated. And once we sort of showed that buyer through off market last week, they ended up securing that. But one of the trickiest part of the deal was negotiating the settlement. And it just so happened that because the buyer was particularly desperate, we ended up getting a settlement all the way up to sort of mid-April next year that accommodated the owner. So sometimes that right place, right time. And like you said, working with the agent well ahead of the curve is probably the biggest advice we can give this side of Christmas. Yeah,
don't try and get everything perfect before you start speaking to someone in our position. I think, as an agent, we can walk in and say, the house isn't ready to be shown yet, so let's pause. But I think trying to get everything perfect and then saying, okay, I'm ready, it's January, let's start the process and talk to people, it's kind of too late. You're already behind the 8 ball. So I think it's always good to have those conversations now and have somebody that you, I guess, trust working through all of that process with you, because then these opportunities come up that you would otherwise just be completely deaf to. You wouldn't hear about them at all.
Yeah, the other side of it's marketing as well. Like rather than rushing and taking down all the Christmas items and trees and lighting and things like that first day in January, you can leave them up for a couple of weeks at least. And we could even have photos organised prior to that early December for the properties that are ready before the tree goes up and so on. So there's a lot of pre-planning that we can do, and we can sort of be a part of that process well before. So that's just something for the public to keep in mind.
Definitely.
Also, another thing I wanted to touch on today, Chris, was obviously your development, your duplex development that you're sort of going through at the moment. First time developing a property. How are you finding things?
It's definitely it was a steep learning curve, that's for sure. I think we partnered with someone who I think is fairly experienced, so that was good. But really was a bit by accident, to be very honest. I think we initially were looking to build a home or renovate and extend the existing home, and I think a lot of people across how expensive it is to actually build.
Yeah, the costs have gone up dramatically. Yeah,
so it's sort of the only really affordable way. It was still a lot of money, but then there's an additional dwelling, so being duplex, where
you get to rent that out or
sell. Yeah, so it's you see why a lot of people are doing it across the area, because it does help to bring back those costs a little bit more. But yeah, it's been fairly good, probably about a month away, and hopefully move in time for Christmas. It's always the discussion you have with people looking to build. So,
yeah, definitely. Obviously not get too excited and get ahead of yourself, but make sure you get those sort of finishes all done. How are you finding things from obviously aspirational when you started the process compared to how it's looking now? Is there anything that sort of you maybe would change for a next development that you do?
There's always a learning curve. I think when you're building something to live in versus purely an investment, it's probably different. It's probably a little bit more personal choice, emotion, consulting amongst family. Whereas I think when you are doing an investment, you've got to be probably a little bit more numbers savvy. Having said that, I think families can make really good developers. I've seen it over the years, because it's the same way if somebody's renovating a property or building a property to live in versus just to sell. A lot of buyers can notice that. Like, we've seen properties that have been developed and it's very obvious they've sort of cut costs in certain areas, or the backyard, instead of properly landscaping it, it's just a patch of grass, and buyers pick up on that. It feels less homely. Yep. We're hoping that ours is not like that, but
I think you have to find that happy medium if you are sort of looking to sell versus sort of keep it. But at the same time, you don't want to go all out on the marble finishes and the 60 mil kitchen bench tops instead of the 20 or 40.
That's for sure.
No, exactly. So I think there's that fine sort of happy medium that you need to have that balance. But like you said, at the same time, it's all about what the end goal is, which is maybe renting one out and keeping the other one and living in it and enjoying. So you have to weigh it up, personal choice versus market sensory. And I think, that's the exciting part about developing.
For sure. I think the other thing that intrigued me at the beginning is I speak to a lot of people in this space, and whether they do it professionally or it's a family doing it, it's given me a real insight, I think, to the planning of the build, the people you need to speak to, the sort of hiccups you can deal with along the way, the final. So for me, I think it's enhanced my service as an agent to certain people in that space, because I can speak from experience now on it. So I think that was another big reason why I thought it was a positive going for it.
Yeah, I think putting yourself in your customer's shoes, in the client's shoes, like the amount of people out there at the moment that I'm meeting with who are going through that exact same decision-making process that you're doing. They've gone to Clarendon or Metricon or one of the major builders and decided that, okay, this is too costly now for us to do, or an architecturally designed home. They're scaling it back to a duplex and then either living in one and selling one. There's a client that I've just got off the phone to who has just tried to sell with another agent in the area, and they've just decided that they're going to build a duplex now because of the the struggle in finding even an established built home that they can move into and selling theirs. It's just become a lot easier that they can find a 5-bedroom plus study duplex and rent the other one out. And that way it's an built-in investment property. So it's happening a lot more in our area. And I think it's, definitely really good to go through the process because it puts you on the same side as the client.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's also understanding before you embark on that, what are the things that you have to understand? What are the numbers? What's, speaking to an accountant about the tax implications and what the future plans are, and actually working out, is this better? Because I think the other misconception is I see people seeing some of these properties get sold, and on the surface, some of them look like they're selling for really big prices. But when you actually analyse the cost, if you're buying the land at today's value, all those sorts of things, sometimes some of those properties aren't as profitable as they look like. So it is understanding the right numbers and making sure you're looking through all of that before you jump in. But if it works out, it can be rewarding. Yeah,
it's very rewarding. And just so happens that you know a really good real estate agent in me as well that I can sell it for you. So that we can help out with for sure.
Fair enough. So something I wanted to talk about is how's your finger and your shoulder going?
Oh, mate, if I have one more client asking that at an open home, I feel like an absolute klutz. It's going good. The shoulder's almost better. For those that don't know, I broke my shoulder and it was called an avulsion fracture of the shoulder and broke my finger. Finger was quite interesting. I shattered the knuckle completely and it twisted 180 in my finger. Still got the pin. Got to go back and get all that operated on tomorrow actually and get it all fixed up. And the shoulder is just a slow burn recovery, but typical sort of 41-year-old thinking that I'm 20, just try to take people out of the soccer field who are 10 years younger than me. And there's only one winner there, especially like over 35 soccer is not sort of, a lot of people thinking that they're still 20 and running a million miles an hour, but no fitness whatsoever. And it just wasn't a good combination. So, but it's good. It's good to be recovering. Good to be sort of, lifting my arm up again and being able to sort of write with a pen and sign contracts.
So it's safe to say Michael Dowling's football career is over.
Yeah, it's officially over. It's 100%. The boots are hung up. It's more reminiscing now than actually being able to perform. So it's good to come to an end. But now, obviously, just enjoy watching my kids play. And, go to their soccer games. But
that's good.
I don't know. You never know. You might get that itch for like a five-a-side or a guest appearance somewhere. So we'll never rule it out completely as a guest appearance. But no, nothing serious anymore.
I'll bring the popcorn if that happens.
Mate, bring the ambulance too. So Chris, obviously leading into Christmas and on the back of a pretty big spring selling season, what are you expecting over the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks leading into Christmas?
I think it'll be same as what we've been seeing. I think that urgency is going to continue. We do have quite a bit coming up and we do have people looking at properties on and off market, but there is a sort of a split between planning for next year and obviously dealing with who we can help now. So there's definitely going to be a lot of activity, a lot of long days and nights as we've seen over the last few weeks. But I think what we're seeing is a little bit more strength in the market as I feel like buyers are starting to realise there's not going to be too much more supply come on. There'll be a few properties obviously, but there's not going to be an absolute heap like we've seen in the last few weeks. And then, I guess obviously people then after that 4 to 6 week period looking more forward to having a break, spending time with family and, maybe putting the queue in the rack for the year and then planning next year, okay, well, let's try to move in February or January or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do you see that?
Well, I think it's every year what seems to happen is there's always buyers that miss out on those last few auctions. So that urgency in the buying behaviour sort of steps up dramatically. And I think it's going to be no different. Like we already are noticing that a little bit, like you mentioned with 11A Phillip Road and what happened there with that buyer buying in Putney and the right sliding door moment. But a lot of it's because they're missing out on the last few auctions that are happening towards the end of the year. And all of a sudden they become desperate and they don't want to miss out and they don't want to start looking again in January. So we will see that increase in urgency in the buying behaviour. But again, that's going to be accompanied with, like you mentioned, the forward planning with anyone who's launching next year. Obviously, as a proactive agent, we would rather be starting to show those desperate buyers through even prior to Christmas and seeing if we can match the right desperate buyer up to the possibility of your property before it launches early next year. So we will see a lot of those behaviours. And I do think that the clearance rates will probably remain strong because of that, because buyers just don't want to wait anymore. They want to buy. So I think we'll see that trend continue.
Yeah, I agree. I think anything that's well presented, well priced, especially when it comes to family homes, it's probably going to be anything that's reasonably move-in ready. Doesn't have to be brand new, but neat and tidy, well looked after and well priced. More importantly, I think buyers are going to be all over that stuff over the next few weeks. So I think there is still time to be talking about putting a property on the market. I've got a few launching fairly soon, but obviously you do have to be organised and you do have to sort of jump forward and start having that conversation with the agent. Otherwise, as you said, planning for next year with the backup plan of showing some buyers now, I think that's also a pretty solid plan, because there are going to be a lot of families that do miss out on properties, and if you put the right property in front of them, then they'll make an offer similar to a few that we've mentioned. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this month's Pello Perspective podcast. You can find us on all good podcast channels, Spotify, Apple and YouTube. Feel free to follow us for more information next month.
And if we can help out with anything, please feel free to reach out to Michael, myself, any of the Pello team. If you're looking to move, whether it's buying, selling, renting, or just some advice, always happy to just have a brief chat. Thanks.